What's up, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of Tuesday Tips and Tricks. I'm Max from WeVideo, and today we got another one special lined up for you today. We'll be going over video transitions. We'll be taking a deep dive and discussing when you should use transitions, when you should not use transitions, which you should use, and which are very situational. With that, let me bring on my co-host, Tyler Wall.
What is up, Max? How's it going?
How's it going, Tyler?
Doing well. Excited to get into some transitions today.
Me too. Before we get started, let me make a quick disclaimer. Myself, Tyler, and behind the scenes, Patrick, are all based in California, which is experiencing rolling blackouts right now. So I guess there is a small chance that one of us could lose power, which means we'd be cut off the line. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Fingers crossed. Secondly, if you're watching us from YouTube, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, as well as hit the bell in the top right corner so you get notifications and never miss another episode. We also have our brand new Tuesday Tips and Tricks landing page, so you can easily go back and see any of the episodes we've done in the past, as well as skip to a specific point in an episode, because a lot of the text underlying each different episode is time-stamped going over the questions asked, making it even easier for you to find what you're looking for and get the most out of WeVideo. With that, let's get started.
All right, let's go ahead and transition into the editor. See here, I've got a timeline already set up. So we're just going to go through our transitions today and talk about, as Max mentioned, some best practices, maybe where you could go wrong, and show you some examples of that. And
yeah, this is a very, I guess, situational episode. As always, there's no right or wrong way to use transitions. However, I guess you could preface that by saying there are kind of some best practices you see, especially if you're going for a more theatrical type of video.
No doubt. All right, so if you guys are not familiar with transitions, we're going to show you where those are. Within your timeline editor, I'm just going to go up to this tab up here that says transitions. You can see all these different options. So like every thing in WeVideo, when you click on it, it's going to preview for you. So we can go through all these and see what they're going to look like ahead of time, and then it'll give us an idea. So we're going to go over some of the most commonly used transitions. So these are things you see often in advertisements, movies, even just social media posts that maybe your friends are sharing.
Exactly.
The most common one we often see is going to be crossfade. So this is the first one actually within our preview screen. I'm going to go ahead and play this timeline just to show you some of the clips we have already laid out. All right, so you get a general idea of our footage here. It's a travel adventure type video, and there's a lot of match cuts going on. So you can see we're cutting on the action. These guys are trying to figure out where they're going on their map. As he points, we cut. It's a cut there with our music hit. So that all flows pretty nice. Then we get into these forested trees, and it's a little bit abrupt. I think that would be a great place to apply this crossfade. Let's go ahead and do that. And you can see that kind of takes us into a new world, right? We're leaving this area here and going into our trees.
So a couple things kind of just to point out tips of what you're quickly going over, Tyler. At least from my observation. One, you're doing a great job syncing up the video to the music. Secondly, you're always cutting on motion in the first beginning portion, which makes it just flow a lot easier, and almost so that you don't even recognize that it changed angle or changed shots. And then I noticed, obviously, when you do a big scenery change like that, you go with the more fade to make that less obvious.
Yeah, you typically see fades used to display a change in time, a change in location, and it really allows the viewer to be taken into this new place, this new world. And it's an easy way to do that. We're going to show you a couple more ways to do that a little bit later on with, the layering of sound. We'll get into that a bit later. So let's go ahead and apply some more crossfades in here, so you get a general idea of how these can be used. And we end up at the campfire at night. So crossfades are very common. You see them a lot. It's one of the most standard transitions. And that's a use that you would see. So let's continue on. Got some more travel footage for you. Another popular one that we see in travel videos is this cross zoom. So we can preview that.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
Yeah, typically you're going to want to use this when you are doing a zoom within your actual footage. We want these transitions to be motivated by what's on the screen. A lot of times, something like a cross zoom, you see we're zooming out, and that feels nice because we've already got a movement happening within our footage.
There you go. So yeah, I just noticed you did basically 3 right in a row there. For our viewers, is there a best practice as to how frequently? I mean, should you be doing a transition on every cut? And for each individual cut, should you be sticking with the specific transition, or you should be mixing it up? Let's get some details on that.
Sure. Generally, we want to try and stay away from using a lot of transitions. It can take our viewer out of the video and have them focusing more on the transition than the footage on screen, which is, telling our story. So if you can, try and just use match cuts. A lot of times that's going to make it a lot easier on your viewer. But if you're establishing a theme like we are here with this cross zoom, and we're keeping it consistent, I think you can definitely utilize quite a few of these, especially when we're jumping around to different locations, as you can see here.
And then another question, obviously this really works well with the music, especially with each upbeat, you're moving from one clip to another. Do you generally have a soundtrack in mind before you start putting the clips in, or do you put the clips in first and then try and find something that fits?
I think it's usually a mixed bag. It depends on the editor as well. Sometimes it's easier to start with a track and then you can, make your cuts to the music. If the focus is more on, your footage and getting things laid out first, sometimes it's easier to set those things up first and go back and make adjustments once you plugged in the music. So I think it differs from edit to edit, but a lot of times it's easiest to start with your music. Yeah.
All right, so we've gone over crossfade and cross zoom. What are some of the other, I guess, more popular ones when it comes to, or professional almost would be the word?
Yeah, let's keep going over the popular versions. You can see there's some more intricate transitions that we have here.
Intrusive.
Yeah, so typically we won't see a lot of these used in professional videos, but they have their time and place, and we can go over that. Photo slideshows is often a good place for some of these type of transitions here.
3D flip ones, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's move along to another example. How about some wedding videos? I'm going to go ahead and play this. So film burn is the next one we're going to review. These are typically used with warmer footage. So you can see here these nice warm tones that we have. It's going to match up really nicely with our film burn, which is also very orange. So I'll go ahead and play that.
Soundtrack's fading.
Long build up here. So you can see how subtle those are, and really.
Yeah, could we show those without Tyler, just so we kind of see before and after?
Yeah, let's get rid of them. A lot of times your job as an editor is to not be seen. You want these to be seamless cuts and for no one to even notice what's really happening. So it doesn't look terrible with our just hard cuts.
The film burn does make it look.
You have that film burn adds just a little bit more of a dissolve and different element to what's happening. So I think another good one is this film strip transition. This could also be used in a wedding type video. It's got that old school kind of look to it.
Yeah, this one's definitely more noticeable, I'd say, than the film burn.
Yeah.
So
again,
yeah,
there's no wrong or right answer.
Sparingly, but yeah, I agree. It does work for the first few.
Definitely. And there's really no wrong or right answers for transitions. It's up to you at the end of the day how you want your video to be themed.
It is definitely a stylistic choice. I mean, I'd say, yeah, oftentimes in movies, and I think there are some big exceptions when it comes to Hollywood blockbusters, but you generally see a lot more in-camera transitions as opposed to post-production stuff like we have here.
Yeah, in-camera transitions also look a little bit more natural. We have a great video that Max is starring in that goes over a lot of in-camera transitions, actually. I think we have some of the footage from that on our timeline today.
Yeah, we got some good feedback that I think we'll be doing another part 2 to that sometime soon.
For sure. Yeah, so like, for example, this slide movement, a great way to make this a lot more natural and easier to match up, maybe that motion of going left to right, is to do that within camera. So a whip pan or using an element in your foreground to transition naturally. So we'll show you a couple examples of that.
Awesome.
Should we skip forward to that, actually, while we're...
yeah, while we're on the subject, we can go back and forth here.
Cool. So we have Max here. I think this is the match cut. All right, so this is an example of a whip pan. We're going to show you how that works. And you can see the camera is spinning very rapidly and then spinning again, and you're matching up these two clips and ending up on a different one, closer version. Here's the examples. Foreground, using an object in the foreground, and we're transitioning to a new clip. So you can get really creative in creating your own transitions. All right.
Love it. Yeah, quick reminder, we are getting some questions now. We will address these shortly. Got one coming here. Yeah, actually, let's go over the skydiving transitions before we get to these, Tyler.
Okay. All All right, we got some skydive footage for you guys. If you're just tuning in, as Max mentioned, we are in California with warnings of rolling blackouts, so if there's a harsh transition and we get cut off, that's the reason why. All right, so skydiving. Another great transition you see often used are these dip to black, dip to white. And again, we want our transitions to be motivated by the action on screen. So for this skydive footage, I felt it was a good use of dip to black. You're kind of almost blinking as you're dropping out of this airplane, right? So let's take a look at this. And dip to black can also be used to introduce text, right? You can see I have these black solids here, and we're putting text over top. So it's a great way to transition into a full screen title. You see this often used in trailers, movies with action, anything along those lines.
Yeah, those are more like an exaggerated effect. So we did just have a couple comments come in, Tyler. First question was from Robert Kershaw of Berkeley, California, asking about whether the Whippan is in the transitions menu. So I can actually answer that. Robert, the Whippan is something that's done with the camera. So it would look kind of like if you're filming with your phone like this, once you're kind of done with the clip, whip it. And you can whip up, whip down, but it's honestly a good practice to kind of get into, especially if you're doing just a still shot of something, to when you're about to end it, instead of just hitting stop recording, whip it and then stop recording. And that way you have the option of using that in-camera transition, so we'll call it. Or if you don't want to, you could just cut right before it and then use something that you've got in WeVideo. Like a crossfade or dip to black that we've just gone over.
Yeah, you're basically creating some motion blur and then match cutting the two clips when they're blurring. You could kind of create that same feeling with some of these cross zooms or cross blur, but it definitely is going to look more natural when you're actually just using the camera, right?
Exactly. And then we've got another question here through YouTube. How do we do an edit where there's a frame and goes it goes into and then loops out? Sorry if I'm not being specific enough.
Frame goes into and loops out. Not sure.
Yeah, that's from Azility. Am I reading that right? If you could clarify if that's in relation to something done with camera or post-production in WeVideo, that would be good to clarify. Keep the questions coming in, guys, and we're kind of continue to address them as we move along with some of the other transitions we've got here to show you.
Yeah, we'll do our best to answer those for you guys. Were there any more that came in, Max?
We have another one that's completely unrelated. How do you add a tail on a moving object? I believe that's in relation to animation, so we can go over that again at the end.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so next up is this dip to white.
This is our photo slideshow, so I think we just put a couple examples of some of the transitions that would be applicable to a photo slideshow you may want to use. We have a good variety here, and I'll just play it out. You can see how when we changed our transitions, this does become a little bit intrusive, and it takes you out of the video a little bit, but that could be fun for something like a photo slideshow. Really comes down to your preference. So let's take a look. That was our mosaic.
That actually worked pretty well.
Got that page turn, page curl rather. Kind of looks like a scrapbook.
And it looks like all of these have the Ken Burns animation going for them as well. The slow panning.
This is our dip to white. You can see I applied a sound effect there. It almost feels like a camera is clicking the shutter. And I believe that was puzzle right. So you can see how some of those work for...
Yeah, why don't we go back to that sound effect, Tyler? See if we can hear that while I think I was talking. But that's another good thing to kind of point out is combining a transition with a sound effect can be a really nice touch that you often don't notice, but appreciate what's there.
Sound is going to bring our transitions to the next level. And we'll go over L and J cuts here in a second. And that's a really cool technique that you see used a lot in films to really use sound to transition our clips. So we'll show you that in a second. As you can see here, I'll zoom in on my timeline. The dip to white, I thought that felt kind of like a shuttered clicking. So we went ahead and added the sound effect here when we dip, since we're looking at photos. Makes sense.
Cool. And you can find those sound effects in the
stock media library.
Yep.
Just search for, you know, whatever your desired sound is. And then use this filter here. Uncheck all these. Just be sure you have sound effects applied, and you can find all these different camera shutters. So super useful tool within WeVideo if you have our stock media library within your plan.
Oh, got another comment here from Fer de la Air. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Asking about what transition techniques can you recommend for image slideshows. So yeah, we did just cover that. Looks like you saw that. But yeah, I mean, in general, when you're doing a image slideshow, I think you can often get away with some of the more animated or intrusive transitions that you normally wouldn't use if it was video. So Tyler obviously used a lot of the dip to white, which goes well with the snow, the page curl, the 3D mosaic, which actually really worked well for that. You probably wouldn't see that as frequently with video.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think a lot of these other kind of, if we go back to the transitions, Tyler, some of those 3D ones can be good if you're just doing an intro to your video. If you've maybe got like a title image or text at the beginning and then you're rolling into what you're actually going to have the main content about, those can be a nice exaggerated way to get the movie going.
Yeah, definitely. I think all these have their time and place. You know, even famous movies like Star Wars infamously use some of these basic wipes.
Yeah, the whole library of them, really. And it's funny because once you know what to look for and you start watching some of these movies, you start to recognize them, particularly L cuts and J cuts. So let's move on to those because these are frequently used in any professional film, and they're actually pretty easy to do. And this is more of just using cuts and then tying it in with the sound.
Yeah, so L and J cuts, where they derive their name from is actually the shape of the cut. So you can kind of make out how the sound is overlapping in a J form. and then here it's an L. Hopefully that makes sense. Basically, what we're doing with these is introducing the sound before the visual. And that's just manipulating our brain to feel this transition coming before it actually does. You see this used in a lot of different films. So pay attention next time you're watching a movie and see if you can pick out the L and J cuts. So let's go ahead and play this. So that's our J cut, and here comes our L cut. And just for fun, we threw in.
I love it.
So you can see how sound really can affect the way we see things, and
kind of leads you in, so that you're almost expecting the next visual clip before you even see it.
Correct.
Yeah, because we had another comment from Robert Kershaw about jump cuts. My personal favorite, and I think we did have an example of that from video transitions we did, but a jump cut is when these are great, especially for montages, where you've got your stationary camera and you basically film a long sequence of video and then move within it without actually ever moving the camera.
Yeah, jump cuts are used a lot. You see them, I think the most popular use today is in vlog videos, when someone's just talking to camera and they want to cut out all the ums and pauses like we're doing in our live video here. They'll just go in and do a jump cut, take out those sections, and you see that a lot in vlogs today. You can also see it, I think we have an example here. Let's see. Yeah, it can be used as sort of movie magic as well. So here's an example of Max. He's wearing his Office Fantasy Football Champion belt. Will be mine next season. So let's go ahead and play that. You can see how we use a jump cut there to have that belt.
Yeah, and I mean, combined with the shake too, that great for kind of doing some camera magic.
Yeah,
we'll call it, which yeah, Zach King is probably famous for.
Yeah, so jump cuts can be used when you want to intentionally jar your audience and show them a new scene or a new area really quickly. Yeah.
Robert again pointed out, jump cuts help you shorten your video. Absolutely. Basically, yeah, make your video 10 seconds long, but simulate something that may have taken an hour. Great for simulating the time progression.
I think that was all our examples. Oh, we got some from Max's vacation here.
Oh, yeah. So this is some more of the kind of niche, less common transitions that are available in WeVideo that you might be very situational. So this first one, I had actually made a Thailand video, a trip I took back in 2017. So we used that plane transition there. That's us kind of swimming in the ocean. We used the ripple transition right there. There it is again, to show kind of the
that ripple works really well with the underwater footage.
Yeah,
you're already getting this distortion from your camera, and then that slight ripple, it's pretty seamless and helps us get to the next clip. It's right here. Yeah, ripple. So another quick tip, if you do want to change the length of transitions, you can do that by double clicking. And you can see the duration here. You can even change the type of transition by clicking this menu here. and you can swap them out. So it's a quick way to preview if you want to keep that same length, but just try a different one. And you can even do this to all the transitions if you really wanted to change every single one of them.
Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind here, we've had a couple things come through support for this, is you can change the transitions to be less than a second, but by default, they are 1 second. So in order to place them, you need to be putting them on a clip or clips that are at least 1 second.
Yeah, definitely. You'll run into some problems if you have a very short clip and the transition is taking too much of that actual clip's length.
So yeah, strategy there might be to make the clip longer over a second, add the transition, then shorten the transition to be 0.5, half a second, and then you can cut the clip back.
Yeah, you can see how when I apply this transition or delete it, it's actually eating away at our clips. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind when you're applying these, is that you're going to lose the front and tail end of your clip when you apply these transitions.
Exactly.
Yeah, so when you guys are watching videos, movies, try and pick out the type of transitions that are being used. Watch some of these movies that have won awards like Whiplash or Ford and Ferrari, and you'll see some really great editing that is seamless, you know. And often use a lot of these different ones that you would find just in WeVideo, like the crossfade, the film burn.
Oh, yep. I guess we just actually unintentionally answered Robert's question about how to extend or shorten the duration of a transition for a clip. But yeah, you just double click the clip, change the number of seconds, whether that's cutting it in half by adding a decimal point, or lengthening it. And then same with clips, you just drag either end, assuming that it was filmed longer. So, I mean, yeah, if you only filmed 3 seconds of clip, you can't just make an additional 2 seconds out of nowhere.
Yep.
All right. Got a lot of questions during this episode, which is great. We've got what is the price to upgrade? So you can, it's from Vladimir. You can check out our pricing page. We'll post a link in the comments there on Facebook. Other question on YouTube, which was, yeah, how do you add a tail on a moving object? So I think real quick, Tyler, we could just go over how you would animate like a still object or an icon. I don't know if we have a tail or something, but how to make it follow movement.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see if we can make that happen. Might be a bit difficult.
Kind of doing this on the fly, so bear with us. But I think we've had a similar question in the past, which is in relation to how to make sunglasses, and we should upload that. Sunglasses kind of come in out of nowhere over someone's face.
Oh yeah, like a classic meme.
Yeah.
The Thug Life meme.
Thug Life, yeah.
So I think what they're referring to is kind of these accents that you see typically in animation. Maybe a motion tail coming off of something, but I could be wrong. So let's try and make that happen. I think the best way to do that within WeVideo would be to search within our stock media to try and find maybe some sort of flash animation that we can apply to our animation. So in your stock media, you'll often find a lot of these alpha channel animations that already exist, so they're pretty cool. See if we can find one that represents sort of a tail coming off. Maybe one of these little flashes would work. So we'll go ahead and drag our endpoint. So this guy, out point. Okay. All right, now we just need an object to animate across our screen. So what could that be? Any ideas, Max?
So we've got what the kind of lightning effect.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what they mean by tail, but it's kind of, or maybe this is more of a tail, actually. This is probably more in line with what we want. That'll work. All right, so let's say we have, what's a good object? Apple.
Yeah.
Images. No. If we do just graphics, find an icon, green apple. That's got a background. Sorry, we're doing this on the fly, so I'm trying to find an icon that we can animate for you guys.
That works. We can do that, Apple.
Yeah, we can't isolate the background, but that's okay. You'll get the general idea. So let's go ahead and put this in here.
I guess we could, well, it's got a lot of black, but we could chroma key it.
We could key this. It's got this brown down here, so it might not be a perfect key, but for our demo, that's okay. Oh, no, it doesn't like it. Let's cancel that. I think you'll get the general idea. So let's say we're animating this apple, someone was throwing it. So you're going to double click into your clip editor, and then we're going to start our animation. So the apple's over here first, and then it's going to end up all the way off screen. Save those changes. So now we got our apple moving, and then we could apply this tail. Basically what we're going to do is just try and line that guy up. And we could even animate this tail to follow along. Start there and go over there. Oh, too fast. So this will take some trial and error.
Yeah, shorten the apple there.
Theoretically, we can get this guy to follow along.
There we go.
I think that's what they're asking.
Yes, basic premise. You'll just have, if something's already in video and it's moving, then you're going to be animating the other additional objects that you're placing on the track above it. So in our case, we animated both the apple and the tail, which we put on track 2.
Right. And to find that tail animation, I just searched, Flash Alpha, and you'll find a lot of these cool effects that you see pretty commonly, actually, in social media posts, things along those lines. Kind of bring a fun, cartoony feel to your footage. And you could apply this over something like when Max's belt disappears, we could have a flash happen. And that would just bring another element to our video.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for the questions for this week's. As always, if you have any suggestions, content for future episodes, please let us know. This was another topic that was inspired by audience participation, and we got some great feedback, so call this one a success. But thanks again for tuning in and viewing. As always, happy creating, and see y'all next week.
See you guys.